Welcome to HFY Stories. Please subscribe to the channel. Your one click means the world to me. The message offered more money than she had seen in her life. All it asked for was one small silence. That message never entered my mind again until 3 cycles later, on Zerion Prime, when a charge clicked shut against my second-in-command's spine, and I understood, too late, exactly whose silence had been bought first. Scar didn't move. His rifle stayed raised, arm locked, sweat cutting tracks through the grime on his mandibles, and behind him a human woman I'd never seen before kept one thumb resting on a detonator no bigger than a coin. 12 of us, full combat loadout, an orbital gunship 3 hours out, and we were standing very, very still because one small woman had decided we should. People ask me now how a Corfax shock unit ended up on its knees in an abandoned mine, begging a fugitive for mercy. I tell them it started 3 cycles earlier with a name that meant nothing to me yet, Riley Voss. The hegemony called her a terrorist. 3 supply depots gone, 2 prison transports gutted, an orbital command platform turned to slag, one human, unaugmented, barely a meter and a half tall, according to every file we'd been handed. My superiors called it overkill to send a full unit after her. I called it insurance. Humans had a talent for making the odds lie to you, and I'd chased enough of them across enough systems to trust that instinct over any file. We tracked her signature into an old excavation facility, a chamber thick with dead machinery and red emergency light. I split my people into flanking teams and took the center myself. Corporal Zen swore the approach was too clean, no debris, no cover fire prepped, nothing a cornered animal would leave behind. I told him cornered animals didn't build 3 demolished depots. When we breached, my targeting system lit a heat bloom behind a drill rig, exactly where a target that wanted to be found would crouch. "You're surrounded," I told it. "There's no exit." The voice that answered came from the rafters, not the floor, warm, almost delighted. "You made better time than I expected. I was starting to think you'd taken a wrong turn." She was perched 20 meters up on a support beam, legs swinging like a child at the edge of a dock, and she looked down at my 12 rifles the way you'd look at a pile of firewood someone had gone to a lot of trouble arranging. "Question for you," she said. "You brought an entire company for one woman, so which is it tonight, witnesses or targets?" The lights died before I could answer her. When emergency power flickered back, she was gone, and the heat signature behind the drill rig hadn't moved an inch in the dark, because it was a coolant unit running hot, not a person. A decoy built to eat our first volley of attention. Around us, the chamber woke up. Drill arms rotated on old servos. Conveyor housings shrieked into motion. Every static angle we'd mapped on entry rearranged itself into something none of us had cleared. "It wasn't abandoned," her voice said, from everywhere and nowhere at once. It was waiting for someone to need it. My exit sealed itself behind a repositioned excavator before I finished ordering the fallback. Scar's motion sensors screamed about contacts that vanished every time he turned to face them. I asked how many. Her answer was a countdown instead, 60 seconds to explain who was paying us, or the conversation would stop being polite. That's the moment the charge found Scar's spine. He tried to be a hero, leveled his rifle at a shape stepping out of the dark, and a woman I hadn't clocked at all pressed something small and shaped against his armor before his finger reached the trigger. 11 more figures stepped out of the machine shadows around us in the same breath, weapons raised, movements unhurried, because they'd never needed to hurry. Riley dropped from the rafters and landed without a sound. Up close, she was smaller than the file promised and immeasurably more dangerous. "Let's try that question again," she said, brushing rust from her sleeve. "Witnesses or targets?" I ordered my people to lower their weapons. It was the only order left that made sense. She wanted names, not ours, our employers. I told her our contracts were sealed under hegemony protocol, and she laughed the way you laugh at a child reciting something they don't understand. A thin man with grease-stained hands stepped forward holding a tablet stitched together from salvage, cables spilling out of it like roots. "Took me about an hour to get into your ship's logs," he said. Your employer talks a lot when he thinks nobody's listening. He turned the screen toward me. Council seals. Authorization codes I recognized on sight. A counselor's name I recognized even better, Jarkfest, who'd lost 2,000 relocated colonists to a raid 3 months prior and had never once, in any hearing, called it what it was. I understood then that we hadn't been hunting a criminal. We'd been hunting a man's humiliation and getting paid handsomely to fetch it. Keep reading, Marcus said, and something in his voice had gone flat and careful, the way a man's voice goes right before he hands you something he wishes he could take back. Project Clearance. Phase 1. Eliminate primary targets. Phase 2. Exploit captured intelligence to expose secondary networks. Phase 3. I read it twice, certain the translation matrix had failed. It hadn't. Full-scale extermination protocols. Nobody in that chamber spoke. The machinery had gone still again, and into that stillness Riley said, all the earlier lightness stripped out of her voice, "There's no war crimes tribunal complaint big enough for what that document says, Commander. You weren't chasing a fugitive. You were the leading edge of a plan to erase a species, and they dressed it up as a bounty so men like you would carry it without asking questions." I want to say I felt shock. What I actually felt was the floor of every certainty I'd operated on for 3 cycles giving way beneath me at once. 47 bounties, she told us. 47 names across a dozen systems, every one a survivor of something the hegemony wanted buried. And not a single hunting party, in a full month, had reported back to its employer, because networks talk, and soldiers who see what we just seen tend to stop taking orders from the people who lied to them. "So here's the actual choice," she said. "Go home and tell Jarkfest you failed and wait for whatever contract he sends next. Or stay, tell us everything you know, and testify when the reckoning comes. Either way, Commander, you don't get to pretend you didn't see this tonight." I looked at Scar, at the charge still resting against his armor, at the ring of humans who could have ended us 3 times already and chosen not to. Then I gave the only order that made any sense left to give. "We'll talk, all of it." They moved fast after that. Tors, a hegemony deserter with old scars and a colder eye than Riley's, had my people wired into a secure channel within the hour, feeding coordinates, fleet rosters, patrol schedules, everything Jarkfest's office had trusted us to carry across 3 systems without a second thought. Our own ship would be logged as lost to a structural collapse in the mine. No survivors. Deep regrets. A tidy footnote in someone's quarterly casualty report, filed and forgotten by people who'd never once wonder if the report was true. Before they moved us out to whatever came next, Riley crossed the chamber and held out her hand, palm open. The human greeting gesture I'd only ever seen flagged in threat assessment footage as a distraction technique. I looked at it a long moment before I understood it wasn't one. I took it anyway, claw closing carefully around fingers built from something so much softer than my own plating. "Welcome to the part of this war nobody paid you to see," she said. 6 hours later, on a transport with false registry papers and a new name I hadn't chosen for myself, Scar asked me if I regretted it, the order, the surrender, the years of service we just quietly burned to the ground. I told him no, and I meant it, and I still do. What I remember clearest isn't the charge on his back or the document on that tablet. It's her hand, small and steady, closing around a claw built to kill her, and neither of us letting go first.